Vampires in Mexico. What more do you need to know? Hi, I'm David Desro, and today we're going to be reviewing Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. So the story starts off in an alternate timeline where vampires have existed freely and are known to the rest of the human population since the 1970s. And Mexico City has basically walled themselves off and made sure no vampires enter the city, so it is a vampire-free zone. And where the story starts off, we have 17-year-old Domingo, who is a street nomad who digs through the trash and sells whatever interesting trash he can find for a little bit of money, and that's how he survives. Now, eventually he runs into Adel, which is a female vampire who is fleeing a rival vampire family. And in this story, the vampire families are very similar to drug cartels in that they're all fighting each other. They're constantly at war over power and I guess certain areas of land. Anyways, Adel's on the run, and she has this other vampire, Nick, who's chasing her. And then after that, chaos ensues. This is an urban fantasy with a little bit of romance mixed in. And it could also be called a paranormal romance. But then once you hear paranormal romance, you think of Twilight, and this is nothing like Twilight, except that it is a little bit like, there's some similarities, like a human is attracted to a vampire, and that's about where the similarities end. So instead of calling it that, I'd much rather just say it's an urban fantasy with some romance mixed in. It's much darker, much more violent. Let's just talk about it. Are the protagonists easy to root for? And we have three. So I want to say our main protagonist is Domingo. And I say that because, well, his chapter starts off the book. And from his perspective, we are introduced to the world of vampires and knowledge about them. So as he learns things, so do we as the readers. And that's why I feel like he has the most important POV, is because he's the one really getting taken for a ride. Is Domingo easy to root for? Yeah, he's an underdog in life. Like he has next to nothing. He's barely surviving. He comes from a broken home. He just has very few things going his way. He has a good heart, and that's all he's got. And he's just out there trying his best. And it's very easy to root for him. Our other protagonist, Adel, is the vampire, female love interest. That didn't sound good. The other protagonist, Adel, is a vampire. She has a lot of secrets, and she has her own personal demons that she's battling, and she's pretty ruthless. I mean, she has a soft spot for Domingo just because he is seemingly so helpless. But yeah, she is easy to root for. She's an underdog. Even though she's pretty powerful, what she's up against is even more powerful. The third protagonist is Anna, and again, another underdog. She's a police officer in Mexico City, and she is constantly looked down upon by her peers. They don't really respect her, and she's trying to make a name for herself and take down these criminal enterprises or gangs. She's all about justice, and she's easy enough to root for. Her point of view and her part of the story isn't as exciting as Domingo and Adel's, but she's still a good person, and you want her to win. You want her to succeed in what she's trying to do for the most part. Is there a formidable villain? Yes. In Certain Dark Things, you have Nick as your central antagonist, as your central villain. He's a vampire, a much different kind of vampire than Adel, but he is vicious, aggressive. He's young and reckless. And he has a sort of sidekick, this man Rodrigo, who is sort of like his handler, sent by Nick's father to kind of keep him in line, but he's just a human. And the dynamic between Rodrigo and Nick is amazing. They are the odd couple. Their personalities are polar opposite. Nick is young, aggressive, and violent. Well, I guess they're both violent, but Nick is young and aggressive and very reckless. He just wants to charge into battle, or he just wants to rush into things, whereas Rodrigo is more tactical. He wants to think and plan out the mission. So, and he's older, a little wiser. So they definitely clash, and that means constant tension during their chapters. Nick, you could tell Nick's whole mission is just to hunt down Adel and rip her in half, and he's powerful enough to do it. So yeah, you definitely feel like the protagonists are in danger, for sure. Does it stick the landing? Almost. It gets so close, like really, really close. Like as I was reading the entire book, through most of it, I was thinking, okay, this is like a 4-star book. It's really good. It does a lot of things well. And then we get to the third act and the climax, and I was just like, wow, I was blown away. I was like, this is a 5-star book. I really love this. I love what's happening, what's going on. I really care about these characters. There's so much good. And all the way up until chapter 39, if you read through chapter 39, it's great. At the end of chapter 39, you should just close the book and say you're done. Because then if you read chapter 40, it goes from a 5-star book to a 4-star book. It just drops it. It's like the author didn't do anything technically wrong. The whole book's well written, but it's just the direction she chose to go was just like, why? Like, why'd you do that? You know, it's just, I don't know. I'm not even sure, like, are there fans out there that like these kind of stories? Like, maybe, I don't want to spoil it, but maybe certain people will like the last chapter. I really don't think that, like, I just don't think there's a lot of fans that will really enjoy or look forward to that last chapter. Maybe I'm in the minority, maybe I'm totally wrong, but for me personally, that totally dropped it down from a 5 to a 4. And again, Silvia Moreno-Garcia is a very skilled writer. It's well written. Let me know what your favorite vampire novel is in the comments below. And until next time, later. Domingo be slaying vampires. Yeah, he doesn't stab anybody with a wooden stake, but he definitely stabs some vampires.